You ever hear those stories about someone who goes to a film shoot or an audition or whatever, and they're not an actor, but the director or some agent is like,
I like the look of this young stallion. I'm gonna put them in my movie and make them a star.
And then you find out that that person's name? Yeah, well, in the real world, that's not really how it works. It's all much, much stupider. When I dropped out of university, but before going back to college, I had kind of a dump year, and I needed to work, but I was turned down from everywhere because I had the customer service experience of a potted plant. But it was fine, because I knew I wanted to work in film or TV or something tangential to that anyway. So I was like, what can I do that's related to film, absurdly easy, has no requirements, and would make for a semi-interesting YouTube video years later? So I joined a casting agency, and I basically became an on-call extra. If you don't know, if a movie is shooting on a closed set, but there's supposed to be people hanging around, they've got to get their own people to fill the background, and decent companies will pay you to be that space filler. And if you're like, well, that seems like an unbelievably easy way to make money with no strings attached, you're right. I mean, it's not good money, it's minimum wage, so unless you live in LA or Vancouver or some sort of hub for movies, you're probably still gonna need another job or join a union, but the requirements basically made that impossible to do where I live from just background work, but it was good, because then they didn't have to pay us overtime, which meant they would keep us for like 14 hours. I said it was easy, I didn't say it wasn't tedious. But hey, at least I come by it honestly. Back in the 80s, my dad lived in Toronto, and there was a show that shot there called Night Heat, and he accidentally made it into the background of an episode. There he is. He's that blur right there. I think. So I thought I'd continue the family tradition and start doing that on purpose. You probably have an idea of what a film shoot looks like, but my city's not known for like big budget, corporate, daddy Disney. The main thing that drove the companies I worked through was like made for TV movies that you would see on W or Hallmark or something.
I don't know anything.
Oh God, Mimi, I'm so sorry. I would never do anything to hurt you.
Yeah, like those. I'm in this one, by the way. Oh, by the way, I haven't seen most of the things I'm in, so I don't know if they're good, but I'm gonna assume they're not. One miniseries I did has a review calling it the CBC's saddest attempt at comedy yet. Most days would have me show up and then I'd sit in a room and maybe play cards with a few of the others that were called for like 8 hours before they would finally summon us to the set. And when you get there, everybody from the extras wrangler to the director is just tired and grumpy, so we'd just stand around and shut up until we were told what to do. It's kind of dehumanizing. You're like the movie version of cattle. But then they plonk you into the background and then you'll either walk past the camera or sit with your back to the foreground, or if you're supposed to be talking to someone, you'll mouth the lyrics to All Star to confuse any lip readers who might be paying extra close attention to the background. I did actually do that once, but that was in a movie that I'm not talking about today because I'm bad at structuring videos. But once you were done, they would send you back to holding for a couple more hours before they set you free, and then you feel weirdly exhausted for someone who did almost nothing but sit around for 10 hours. Oh, and don't worry, they did also feed us, is what I should probably say so I don't get sued. The lunch the crew is legally obligated to give you usually consisted of like a pathetic wrap filled exclusively with lettuce, or if you're lucky, one of those truck stop sandwiches that Fry ate in that one Futurama episode.
What's that black cracker?
A tomato.
Meanwhile, the crew and the union actors get this amazing smelling, professionally catered steak lunch that us peasants weren't allowed to look at. They'd have like guards to make sure we weren't trying to sneak stuff, and I get why they do it, but it was always just frustrating looking at the amazing spread while I ate my war rations. The paper bag would also be wet sometimes, whatever. And by the way, I actually was part of the crew a few years later for some government shoot, and I was super excited when we got to lunch to have an actual meal, and you know what we got? It was an amazing 4-course beef. I'm just kidding, it was truck stop sandwiches. Anyway, everything I just said is like a hypothetical normal day, but there was always something that made every gig a little more interesting. I'm not going in chronological order because, again, I'm bad at structuring videos, but there was this one movie that I did. It was a thriller action movie. I think they don't tell you what kind of movie it is or what the plot is before you sign on, or after or during, and you're just sort of left to put the pieces together. And all I knew for this one was I was playing a Secret Service agent, which is pretty cool, and they said that all Secret Service agents must be clean shaven. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but without a beard, I look like a baby. It's true for a lot of people, it's doubly true for me. So I emailed them back and I was like, hey, cool, about the clean shaven part, is it cool if I just sort of give myself a close shave and I have like a 5 o'clock shadow, because without a beard I look like a baby? You know what, that seems reasonable. So I emailed that, and then I got a message back from them and they said, all Secret Service agents must be completely clean shaven. Okay, you asked for it. So I took a razor, hacked up my face, I was completely clean shaven, only cut myself twice, and then I got to the shoot and their wardrobe person was like, "You look like a baby." Whatever, the scene is now these 3 Secret Service agents and their kid brother. So we didn't actually have to do a whole lot for the scene. We were grabbing guns from who I think was the villain, and then we were just supposed to walk up the aisle because we were in this theater. That's where the scene was being shot. And when they gave us the guns, they told us to be really careful with them because they were the same guns that they used in the remake for Total Recall. That was a very important thing that they wanted to make sure that we knew. I don't know why. I don't know why, if they explained to us why that was important. I don't remember. Maybe I got total recalled. And the theater that we were in, I had been there a lot of times before, it had a little crawl space underneath the thrust of the stage. So what they told us to do was to basically get underneath this crawl space, all 4 of us or 5 of us or however many there were of us. But the problem is that the crawl space was so tiny that we were like ass to face for like up to 10 minutes at a time while they were setting up each shot. And I remember I was in front of a guy who I talked to beforehand, and he said that this was his first gig as an extra. But we were in this human centipede formation underneath the stage, and I was just like, isn't this the glamorous life of an actor you always wanted? I don't know why I said that. I think I just felt like being a bit of an asshole because it was a high stress situation and everybody was kind of grumpy. So I think that made things better. I can't remember. I did find a movie with this title and the dates match up, but honestly, I don't know if it's the one I was in. There might be a remake. I think there's a sequel. I'm not about to waste 3 hours looking for half a second of me in a movie that I don't even know is the right movie. But then there was this other thing that I did. This was the mini-series that was the CBC's worst attempt at comedy, apparently. So it was shot in Ottawa, and this particular shoot day was at the Parliament, which is this beautiful government building. It's where Justin hangs out. For our call time, we were told to go in through the back, but I was a bit late, so I had to go in through the front security with all the tourists, which took like an hour because it was the middle of summer, I think. It was very annoying. And speaking of very annoying, there was a guy there. I'm not gonna name his name, mostly because I don't know what it is, but he was bragging to the other extras before we got called to set that he was like this big important actor, and I was like, who is this guy? He must be kind of a big deal because he's got this aura about him. And then he said that he was the body double for Mike Myers in the Cat in the Hat movie.
I'm a super fundiferous feline who's here to make sure that you're...
If I were that guy, I wouldn't go around volunteering that information, but you know what? He can do him. And then I actually got called back for a second day on this miniseries, which generally they don't do. And apparently they had to pay a certain amount of people union pay, like they had to meet a quota. I don't know how unions work. I don't know how any of the business side of this works. I didn't back then. I've since gone to school, and I still don't know. For some reason, because we were short-staffed that night, I got union pay. I got paid for the whole day, even though I was only there for like 2 hours of work. And I thought to myself, this is it, I've peaked. And I think I was right. Okay, so I got one more shoot I want to tell you about before I finish this video. So this was the kind of shoot that I had always wanted to do. It was a period piece, which meant I would get to dress up. So it was a movie about Seventh-day Adventists, and I think it was funded by them. And if you don't know what Seventh-day Adventists are, I don't either. All I know is that it's a sect of Christianity, and the movie was about a guy who predicted the rapture, and he was wrong, and now they were making a movie about it. I don't know anything about the guy, I don't know anything about the religion. Again, they don't really tell you anything before the shoot. I also remember that when they were going through wardrobe, they took some fake beard pieces and they glued them to my actual beard, which I had, which was half the reason I got cast. That was weird. This whole movie was being shot at this, is it a theme park? I guess it's a theme park. It's a big area that has a theme to it. It's called Upper Canada Village, so it's this whole area that's meant to look like, you know, from old times. I don't remember what year it's supposed to be exactly. So the scene that we were shooting in the morning was supposed to be in this church, and it was, you know, like a sermon. So the whole church was full of people, and there was a guy, like the actor was at the front. You know what church looks like. Now I feel it's at this point I should mention mention, we were all in period clothing. It was probably the hottest day of the year. This church did not have air conditioning, and there were probably like 100 of us in that room. Oh, and I had only gotten about 2 or 3 hours of sleep the night before. And you could look around the church and you could see that everybody who was sitting in the pews was dying. And the actor could not for the life of him remember his lines. I don't know about his ability as an actor in general, but just that morning he was not on form and he could not remember his lines for the life of him. So we did like a bazillion takes. I don't remember how many there were, but it felt like we were there for something like 4 or 5 hours. It was absolute hell. And I actually started nodding off because I hadn't gotten any sleep the night before. I was doing that thing where, you know, you're like, huh. Yeah, that was me. That was me during that shoot. In my defense, my call time was like 4 a.m. and I probably should have gotten points for realism for what church is actually like. And once the actor finally got his lines right for that one shot and they started to set up a second one, the guy came up to me and pointed me out to everybody and was like, "This guy's sleeping on the job." He didn't actually sound like that. I don't remember what he sounded like, but I was still very annoyed and it felt like a dick move. Sorry for the sudden change in audio. I'm in the middle of moving, but I was going through looking for clips of the movie and I realized it's all on YouTube under pointing emoji, tell the world feature film showing the history of the Seventh-day Adventist Church prayer emoji. I'm not going to tell you to go watch it because it's 2.5 hours long and about Seventh-day Adventists, but it's there. And I'm about to say that all I remember is the church scene, and that's still mostly true, but I am showing you pretty much every scene that I remember being in, so that's fun. Okay, back to the video. All I remember from that day really was that church scene, to the point where I started college 3 or 4 months later, and one of the guys in my program also mentioned that he did some work as an extra, so I just apparated in front of him, and I was like, "Did you do that period piece?" And he was like, "Yeah!" And I was like, "Were you in the church that morning?" He was like, "Yeah!" And I was like, I was the guy that the actor made fun of, and he knew who I was instantly. Anyway, we ended up working on a bunch of different projects through the 2 years we were in school together. Shout out to Nick, I hope you're doing well. Hey there, thanks for watching. I was really on the fence about doing a video like this because it's kind of off-brand, but then I realized that that's a dumb thing to worry about because I clearly don't have a brand. Anyway, if you're still here and you found this on your own, or if you subbed to me years ago and forgot about me, I'm gonna try to do more of these, but you know, it is me. But at least follow me on Twitter, so when I put up part 2 in 3 years, you'll hear about it. I have more stories about being an extra, so maybe I'll come back to this topic some other time. But anyway, if you're still here, thanks for sticking around. Appreciate you.